Namaste everyone, this is Dr. Sumit again, and on behalf of MediStudyGo, I welcome you to our lecture series for oral and maxillofacial surgery. Today the topic that we are going to cover is CSF Rhinorrhea. So before we begin, let me tell you what exactly this is. CSF is the cerebrospinal fluid. It is the shock absorber, it is the nutrient transferer of the brain, which is present between the brain and the dura. I'm going to show that to you on the diagrams, don't worry about it. But the CSF is supposed to stay inside your brains, but when it leaks out from your nose, this situation is called cerebrospinal rhinorrhea. If a CSF leaks out of your ear, that becomes a cerebrospinal otorrhea. On that note, let's start with the topic today. So what you see over here is the simplified image of the simplest one that I could conjure up for you guys is, look at this. So this is your brain here in pink. Okay, so the CSF or the cerebrospinal fluid, which is supposed to transfer the nutrients for the brain, which is supposed to be a shock absorber for the brain, it is secreted in the part of the brain which is called the choroidal plexus. Okay, and now the CSF over here, it is lined outside by layers of the brain which are called meninges, that is the dura mater, pia mater and arachnoid mater. So now see the sequence. Outside you have dura, inside that your CSF, and your brain is simply swimming in the CSF. Okay, so if that has been duly noted, let me take you to the osteology of this. Okay, so this is a very simple diagram where I'm going to show you how you're going to have a CSF leak. Okay, so for example, this is your brain and this is your dura right outside covering it. Now what you see over here is a small spine like tissue. This spine like tissue is called Crista Galli. This Crista Galli is a part of ethmoidal bone. Now ethmoid happens to be a paper thin bone. Okay, so in any case, if there is a fracture of ethmoid bone, that is the Crista Galli, these cribriform apparatus, they are net-like patterns through which the olfactory nerves travel down to your nose. Okay, point number 2 is, this is the perpendicular plate of the ethmoidal bone, and this that you see here, this is the Crista Galli. Now the fun part is the meninges are attached over here at the Crista Galli. So in any case where you have a fracture of the ethmoidal bone, this Crista Galli will directly penetrate inside the dura and it will cause a dural tear. Okay, it's not necessary that every brain injury has to have a CSF leak or a CSF rhinorrhea, but every time there is a dural tear because of the Crista Galli right over here, you are going to have something which is called a CSF rhinorrhea. Why? Please look at this over here. Now this is the CSF. Alright, and when there is a fracture and there is a dural tear, the CSF will start leaking from the ethmoidal sinus and it will come out of your nose. This is exactly how it works. If that was not simple enough, let me complicate it a little for you. So this is a coronal scan, okay, of the maxillofacial skeleton. Okay, so this happens to be your cranial vault, this happens to be your brain, and over here what you see is the Crista Galli. So when this Crista Galli penetrates inside the dura, this dura will simply leak out of the ethmoidal sinuses, and then it will come down into the nasal cavity, and then over here this happens to be your nostril, where the CSF, which happens to be the shock absorber for your brain, it will start leaking out of your nose, and your nose happens to be the primary airway entry to your body. So now try to understand the situation and the gravity of the situation. Okay, so outside there is polluted air, there are pollens, okay, there are microbes, and these polluted contents usually travel through the nose into your lungs. But if you have a CSF leak, they are going to travel right up your brain and they are going to cause meningitis, they are going to cause brain abscess, they are going to cause a plethora of symptoms over here. This is exactly why a CSF leak is so dangerous, because the content that is supposed to stay inside your brain, it comes in contact with the outside environment, and that can lead to massive infection, neurological deficits, and definitely death. Okay, so how do you diagnose a CSF leak? please have a look at these slides. These are slides from some of my PPTs which I had prepared. Now, have a look. The CSF production occurs in the choroid plexus at the rate of 20 ml per hour, that is half a liter daily. So CSF is not something that is to be taken lightly, because half a liter of the volume of your body is CSF. Okay, now the CSF, which is supposed to stay inside the brain, when it comes out of the nose along with some blood, always remember there is something called as a halo sign, where the blood will pool up in the center and the thick CSF will be around the blood. If this is something that you see on a patient's pillow in a maxillofacial trauma ward, immediately go for a neurological reference. Why? Because this patient has a cerebrospinal rhinorrhea. Further, if you want to confirm histochemistry of it and the biochemistry of it, always remember the pathognomic feature is an increased level of beta 2 transferrin. Beta 2 transferrin is a transferrin protein which is found only in CSF. It is not found in blood and serum. It is not found in nasal secretion. It is only found in CSF. Okay, so if you send a nose secretion or a nasal secretion sample to your biochemistry lab and ask them to look for beta 2 transferrin, if they find 10 to 15% of beta transferrin levels in that nasal secretion, it has to be a CSF leak, and that is how you diagnose and you confirm that there has been a CSF leak. But now, coming to the point, how do you exactly treat it? So there is always a conservative management and there is always a surgical management. So try to understand, when you have a CSF leak, the CSF is directly coming out of your nose. We'll go back to this particular slide. Now this patient is in a position where his maxilla is parallel to the floor. So in this case, the CSF with the direction of the gravity will obviously flow down. But if the patient is kept at an elevated head position of 45 to 60 degrees, which means if you evaluate that, okay, let's make a very small diagram for you over here. So now if this is the nasal cavity, the CSF will directly flow down from the brains. But if you elevate the patient at 45 to 60 degrees, this will be the direction of the cranial vault, this will be the direction of the nasal cavity, and all the CSF will pool down posteriorly rather than come down anteriorly. And that is why a 45 to 60 degree head elevation is one of the best conservative techniques. Along with that, if you want to go for the medical management, please have a look at this particular table that we have made for you. Okay, bed rest, 45 to 30 degree elevation, activity restriction, that is no head straining, no bending, no lifting. Avoid sneezing with a closed mouth, because that would increase the pressure in the nasal cavity and that would again reopen the opening which we were trying to close. Medications and diuretics, acetazolamide and along with that mannitol, they serve as one of the gold standard treatments today, even for the medical management of cerebrospinal rhinorrhea. Laxatives and stool softeners. Why? Because if the patient has to apply a lot of abdominal pressure to pass his stools, that opening will open up again inside your nasal fracture cavity. That will again lead to a CSF leak. And prophylactic antibiotics, because you don't want your patient suffering from meningitis or brain abscess. And of course, since you're losing a lot of CSF, hydration and lifestyle alteration and diet. All right. So if that was the medical management for a CSF leak, what is the surgical management? The surgical management is a lumbar drain. So try to understand. When you keep a patient in a 45 degree elevated position, all the CSF accumulates in the posterior part of the brain. But of course, the CSF is forming at the rate of 20 ml per hour. So what are you exactly supposed to do over here? You are supposed to let it drain through the spinal cord. And how do you do that? You connect a very small catheter over here in the spinal cord, which will take away the excess cerebrospinal fluid that forms over here. And that is how, my friends, a lumbar drain will work. That is the final modality. All right, elevated head and all the CSF will accumulate posteriorly. But if you connect a drain inside your spinal cord, that will take away the excess CSF and that would not let it flow out of the nose anteriorly. And finally, a small revision from the beautiful page that the MediStudy Go Mind Maps has kindly provided us. All right, what are the sites? Cribriform plate fracture, sphenoid ethmoidal sinus, frontal sinus fracture. Of course, the clinical features are all over here. Salty and metallic taste due to CSF, recurrent meningitis, headaches, and of course the treatment plan and the investigation. Beta 2 transferrin very important, glucose content of the CSF very important, halo sign we have already mentioned, and the treatment protocol over here: for small leaks, bed rest with head elevation 30 to 45 degrees, avoid strenuous activities, a lumbar drain placement, and finally if you have a CSF rhinorrhea because of a traumatic brain injury, in that case there either has to be a craniotomy or endoscopic skull base fracture repair. And on that note, we have finished with the CSF, but don't worry, we still have the MCQs for you and they are going to be covered right now. And now, welcome to the final part of this lecture, which happens to be the MCQs and the Viva. Please have a look. So the first question that I have for you is, what is a lumbar drain? So of course, just recently explained, lumbar drain is a draining device which you insert into the spinal cord where you want to drain the excess cerebrospinal fluid which is getting accumulated in the posterior part of your calvarial cavity. All right, the next question, it's an MCQ. So which of the following proteins is considered the gold standard lab marker for confirming the presence of CSF in a nasal discharge? Of course, we all know it is the beta 2 transferrin, which is only found in the CSF and not in the nasal secretions. Now the next question, name some common techniques for posterior nasal packing. As already discussed, double balloon catheter is there, Foley's catheter is there, all right, and a formal gauze pack is here right for you. Foley's catheter, double balloon, and a formal gauze pack right here for us. Now, which specific anatomical area is the most common site for anterior epistaxis? I think we have already discussed that. It has to be the caisal back plexus or the Little's area, which is the right answer, of course. Now next, patient with a head trauma presents with blood-stained nasal discharge. You suspect a CSF leak. When placing a drop of the fluid on paper, there is a double ring or a halo sign appearance. What causes this? So, separated serum, CSF diffusing faster. Okay, this looks absolutely right because the CSF forms the outer ring and the blood forms the central ring. So, let's see if we have the correct answer here. Of course, we have the correct answer. All right, the blood contains heavy cellular components that remain in the center, and CSF is less viscous and therefore it migrates outward. All right, next question that we have over here is, the reservoir sign is a clinical feature of CSF rhinorrhea. What does it refer to? Accumulation of fluid in the maxillary sinus, gush of clear fluid when the patient bends forward, headache that worsen, and spooling of CSF in the retropharyngeal area. Looks like the answer is B. Let's check if we are right. Of course, we are right over here. Okay, next question. Which of the following arteries is not a part of the caisal back plexus? So caisal back plexus contains anterior ethmoidal, superior labial, sphenopalatine, but I don't think it contains posterior ethmoidal. Let's have a look. Of course, it does not contain posterior ethmoidal artery. And finally, we are at the end of this lecture. And for more such contents, please like us, follow us, subscribe us. And this is Dr. Sumit signing off. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon in the next series of lectures.